Hello. Anyway, so I realise I've got that spot where everyone's kind of super hungry, and I'm of course going to talk about food. But let me ask a question to start with. Who here would like more energy? Okay. Research shows now, and our own Sumo research, talking to our own customers, shows that energy is the #1 wellness goal that we want for ourselves. And the good news is that one of the simplest ways of actually enhancing and unleashing our energy is through the food we eat. And we all have to eat every single day. I'm super passionate about food and nutrition. Sometimes I think I'm almost obsessed with it. And the reason I'm obsessed with it is because I know that a lot of the problems that we've been talking about throughout today could be solved with some simple lifestyle changes. I haven't always been this way. Once upon a time, I was a child. I was 11 years old, and back then, I didn't think about nutrition. Nobody taught me. I just ate what tasted good. That's what we do. In fact, back then, I grew up in quite a health-conscious family, but I really resented it. I hated going to school with these kind of whole meal sandwiches when all the kids around me had these delicious white bread. Whilst I was munching into these homemade rock cakes and he broke my teeth. All the other kids had these brightly coloured packages and I wanted some of that. And then one day, and I remember this day really, really well, it was about this time, myself and my mate Jonathan, we went up to London. And this was a big thing for us because we were living in northeast London and we got the Central Line all the way up into town. And I remember walking along in Piccadilly Circus, and then I kind of saw it, a big red sign. And that big red sign had 3 white words on it. And those words today would be 3 letters. KFC. That was the first time I'd ever tasted KFC. And you know what? It blew my mind. It tasted amazing, absolutely amazing. I couldn't believe it. And over the next, 8 years of my life, I had a lot more KFC and a lot more food like that because taste was the big thing. I wanted food that tasted good. Then, of course, guess what happened to me? Any ideas? I kind of stopped growing upwards, and I started growing outwards. And I got to about, 30 kilograms heavier than I am right now. And we talk about physical wellness, we talk about mental wellness. Well, my mental health was not great at that point because I didn't quite know how this had happened. All I'd been doing is kind of eating the stuff that tasted good like everybody else, and it was really accessible, a lot less accessible than it is today, but it was really accessible and it was starting to explode. So I decided I wanted to change. I wasn't happy at being like that, but I didn't have the education. I didn't know what to do. But I knew that exercise was the thing that people were talking about, so I started moving my body, and I caught the running bug. And for the next decade, that's pretty much what I was doing. I was running marathons, and of course I lost loads of weight, became super fit, but my diet was still pretty poor. So it became a very, when I look at it now with my context, it became a very sugar, to be honest. I was having drinks to fuel my body. It was all about performance. I'd have all these gels and everything, loads and loads of white bread, and that's kind of how I functioned, but I felt that I had the recipe for health. I felt I'm running, that's good enough. But I was wrong, because by this point, my nutritional education, so I'll just take that. Just say that off for 1 second. My nutritional education took the next big leap in 2008, and by this point, I'd become Chief Marketing Officer for a company called RBI, based out in London, part of the Relics Group. Oh, going the wrong way. And for those of you who aren't familiar with RBI, RBI is part of RELX, which is a FTSE 20 company. The interesting thing about RBI is that it started life as a magazine business, and in the space of 10 years, it became a data analytics and software business. So quite different, and that kind of journey of change and transformation, we'd call it digital transformation these days, but I was part of it, and it was super exciting. And I feel really privileged to be as part of a transformation that had a beginning, a middle, and an end. But during this period, all I had was my running, and I was burning the candle at both ends, and I was traveling a lot, and I was really believing that I could do everything. Because as I say, I thought I had the recipe for health, but I was wrong. And a wake-up call came, and that wake-up call came in 2008, and this was literally a month before I became Chief Marketing Officer for RBI. And I'd been to China for 2 days, and it was amazing going to Shanghai, a real experience. But what I didn't realize was that I'd picked up a virus. Because when you're traveling, and we've talked about this through the course of the morning, when you're traveling, that puts your body under a lot of stress. I picked up a virus, and that virus impacted my heart rate. And I didn't actually know that until I was back in London, and I was running along the River Thames, and it was kind of an amazing day because it had a blue sky, which is very kind of unusual in London, to be honest. But I was running, it was a perfectly normal day, I was kind of listening to my music, and I had that kind of runner's high, and if you're a runner, you know exactly what I mean. But then suddenly, the world went black, and I collapsed. And I woke up to find myself in Kingston Hospital with all these wires attached to me. And it was a scary, scary thing because I thought I'd been following the recipe for health, but I'd missed out a few ingredients, and they were pretty key ingredients. So I stayed in this chaotic environment for the whole weekend, whilst people were kind of telling me to take beta blockers and telling me to do all these things, and all I wanted to do was just get out. So eventually, after 2 days in the hospital, my heart rate got back to normal, and they let me out. And I had this huge sense of freedom, but still confusion. The story ends well, because the very next day, I went to a cardiologist, he gave me a heart scan, and everything was fine. And he said to me, live your life. And I thought, that's exactly what I'm going to do. So I did what every kind of super controlling, ambitious, resourceful, kind of resilient type of person does, and became really focused on my health and thought, okay, my diet is the thing I need to focus on, because all those black coffees I've been drinking, all that white bread, I knew that wasn't the most health promoting. But what happens? Often we think, well, I'm doing my running, I'm running marathons, surely I'm allowed to have the odd 8 cups of black coffee a day, or the odd, bottle of vodka or whatever it is. I'm allowed a break. Life is worth, we only live once. But by this point, I had a big why. I didn't want to be back in that hospital. I suddenly felt very vulnerable because I had so much I needed to do in my life, and I didn't want it to end then. I could easily have died that day, and that was a real moment in my life. So I changed. I became very, very focused on diet. I started educating myself on nutrition. It blew my mind because there was so much that I realized we didn't know, and as I learned, I changed. And I changed quite dramatically. I won't go through everything I changed, but I changed in a big way, and I changed in a very quick way, because once I knew the information, I didn't want to put rubbish in my body. So I changed. The impact of that was a massive detox, and I was in bed for an entire week thinking, God, what anyone tells you about change, it's hard. It's really hard, and you've got to have that why. You've got to have something to keep you going. But you know what happened? So I was in bed for a week. It was very tempting to go back. I didn't want to go back. But by day 5, I started to feel a bit better. By day 6, I felt a lot better. And by day 7, I felt amazing, really, really good. My energy went through the roof. I was waking up at 5 a.m. I was never a morning person. It was usually 8 a.m. and that was a struggle. And with all that extra energy, I put that energy into activity, because activity is what leads to results. So that's how it was. So roll forward to 2014. So by this point, RBI had transformed. We were talking about transforming, and then in 2014, we suddenly said, well, we have transformed. We are different to what we were before. Let's celebrate. But no, that's not what happens. What happens once you transform is that you need to go faster, and you need to accelerate the revenue. You need to do more things. All of this environment created a very stressful situation. And I saw that, and I didn't know how to connect, because I'm running a big department with 200 people, and I can see this going on. I can see a lot of stress. You know, when you sell half a company, when you restructure, when you're closing departments, when you're telling people that their jobs are very different to what they used to be, and they're not very happy about it, you know, it takes a lot of energy to do that and still get people saying, woohoo, you know, this is great. You know, I've got a completely different job now, and this is great. But when you've got that going on and you've got refined foods, people are feeding themselves with food that is not very good quality. And then you've got medication, and medication could be anything. We've talked about it in terms of coping mechanisms. Whatever the coping mechanisms, we have to cope as human beings. We are not perfect. Some of us would like to be perfect, and I spent a lot of my time wishing I was a bit more perfect until I woke up and said, let's celebrate being imperfect, because that's what makes me human. But this situation was going on, and I really, really wanted to do something about it, and I didn't know how. I would talk to my staff, and they would say, look, I'm really stressed. All this is going on. Why is there munching on croissants and drinking Diet Cokes and these types of things? And I really wanted help. Didn't know how. 2014, I got my opportunity. In 2014, we were sitting around the board table, and we were talking about how do we accelerate revenue growth. And you can imagine the meeting, a lot of people. I'm passionate about well-being, but at that point, I wasn't confident enough to actually talk about it. I had trained to be a health coach because I wanted to share what I knew, and that health coaching qualification gave me some tools and some strategies. But here we were, listening to Graham, our HR director, who was talking about a people strategy. We'd never had a people strategy before. And his people strategy consisted of, this is how we can save money in recruitment. This is how we can focus on retention and learning and development. So all the things you would expect it to have. But you know what it was devoid of? We didn't talk anything about human health. We didn't talk about passions or wellness or any of those things. But what that meeting did for me was inspire me to go on a journey of discovery, which ultimately led to the RBI Living Well philosophy and program, which at the time was quite different because it was a very holistic program, still is. This program has gone on to impact thousands of lives, and it looks at people as whole people with whole lives divided between those different areas. So we brought it all together, and the message was pretty simple. You as an employee, or we as an employee, as individuals, we are responsible for our own wellness. However, we as an employer, we are responsible for creating an environment that makes it easy for you to be well. I'm not going to talk about the program in detail, but I've just recently co-written a white paper called Creating Human-Centered Organizations. We have some flyers here, so grab one of those and you can download that from the Raw Energy site. But it's a really useful study. We spoke to 500 HR directors to really understand where they were in terms of their attitude to well-being and the investment that they're willing to make. And that's what we found, that everyone wants to do well-being, or to do more in well-being, to do more to enhance well-being, but not everyone's actually putting the budget behind it. So that's really where we are as an industry, to help ensure that the investment is there so we can do all the great things that we're talking about today. What I do want to focus on now, 5 minutes. What I do want to focus on now is, 5 minutes. What I do want to focus on now is some quick ideas to unleash the energy you have through the power of food. So 4 big lessons, and I taught you today in terms of food wearing 4 different hats. Hat 1 is I am a health coach. Hat 2 is I'm a business leader and a marketer working in the food industry. Hat 3, I'm an individual who wants to make the right choices. But there are 4 things that I've learned, because if you're trying to enhance and upgrade the food in your organization, then watch out for these things, because often corporate well-being programs talk about food, but it often fits in the too hard basket. Certainly that's what I did. I was very passionate about food, but there are lots of obstacles, and the obstacles are food is really personal. No one likes to be told what to eat and drink. I made a lot of mistakes. I organized a big conference like this for a lot of marketing people, and I decided that everyone would have fruit and salad. Don't do that. That did not go down very well. Money comes before health. With my kind of new corporate well-being hat on, I went along to our canteen and said, why have you got this big display of donuts there? Please remove them and replace them with fruit. So he came along with his sales figures and said, look, no one wants healthy food. The donuts are what's popular. So this is the type of thing that we find every day. And people are confused. At Sumo, we know the biggest problem that we have to solve is confusion. And it's no surprise. There's so much information that is conflicting, so much research. So breaking that confusion and turning that confusion to clarity is our goal. And then access, because it's great to have the education to know what to do, but if you can't access great tasting, amazing food, then you're frustrated. So the solution is really this equation, and it sounds very easy. Focus on authentic employee education, combine that with access, and then you get results. So I'm calling this, and I'm conscious of time, so I'm going to whip through this really, really quickly. But there are 5 gifts of workplace wellness that I want to share with you. And these are ideas, and we can talk about this over lunch if you'd like some inspiration. But all of these are practical things that you can implement. The first one is think about employees as customers, because not everybody is the same. And when you segment, and we have a segmentation that I started at RBI, and we've developed and improved upon at Sumo. But think about people in different groups, and then you can provide different content, different education. Everyone loves to play, so food education needs to be fun. No one likes the do's and don'ts. Everyone hates that. I remember one situation where I brought an amazing nutritionist into RBI, and she presented life-changing information. But the only people who came were the people who knew that stuff anyway. So I had to change. We've done things like the Flexitarian Challenge, which we recently did at Sumo, encouraging people to take photos of their food, post them on a private group and get rewards. That's part of the education. You can really make it fun and use the whole trend in gamification. Activate the community. I can guarantee that every single workplace, every single department will have some people who are passionate about cooking. So if you activate those people, bring them together, give them ingredients, they will create an environment where you can bring people together. Or do catering. I did, when I was in London, I bought 1,000 salads from a company that was not nearly as good as Sumo, I have to say. But what that does is it brings people together. So food is a prop. It doesn't have to be the food in itself that is the focus. It's there. 1,000 salads, everyone came together, everyone spoke to each other, lots of ideas, great for innovation. Use existing content. There are loads of films out there now, documentaries. This is what's seeing such a big drive in the plant-based movement because of Netflix. So do a screening, invite people to attend. Bring in specialists like health coaches. I'm a health coach, plug. But the fact is that one thing I've seen as a health coach is that people know what to do. They just don't do what they know. So having someone like health coaches on that you can bring in can help people with that behavior change, which is important. and combine mindfulness with the eating. We've Sumo and Flow Wellbeing, and is here today. We're doing a collaboration. We've got some mindfulness eating sessions happening in Sydney next month. And then, just kind of looking at my 2 minutes, okay. So then the final thing is access. What can you do to give the gifts of wellness to your workplace? 3 things. Upgrade the drinks. Drinks are such a big part of the problem and also a big part of the solution. So upgrading the water. We have Zazen water here, which is an amazing mineralized water. Try that, because the biggest thing and the simplest thing you can do to enhance the well-being of yourself and your people is to upgrade the water. Upgrade the sodas, just swapping, for example. That's why we're seeing such a big shift in terms of kombuchas. We have Remedy kombucha here. It's a fizzy drink. We're selling lots and lots of those. It's equivalent to drinking a Coke. And then make healthy teas available. Upgrade the snacks. We all love to snack. I love to snack, but it's what you snack on that makes a difference. At Sumo, we get lots and lots of people sending us healthy snacks. So it's an amazing place to work, because you can always snack on something which is highly nutritious and really really delicious. Anyway, I'm almost out of time, so I'm just going to finish off. So there are lots of companies who are doing this really well. We've talked about the high-tech companies. Google, I got a lot of inspiration from Google. They create an environment that makes it easy for people to eat well. But Monash University is another great case study who does this well. So in summary, food is a very, very personal experience. We know that. But the pace of change in business is not getting any slower. It's just going to get faster. So the more we can build our resilience, the more we can support ourselves, the more able we are to be able to cope. Because business and life is like this. So it's not that these things are not going to happen, it's how quickly we can bounce back. Food is both part of the solution and part of the problem. And I see workplaces very much as communities of people. We spend a third of our life at work, so let's use the work environment to educate people and provide access. And we can certainly help you there, because an investment in education, an investment in access will really pay back big time. Well-being isn't the result of one thing. We can do lots of different things. We can do mindfulness, meditation, we can do yoga, we can do running, but we all have to eat. So food is very much the cornerstone, the foundation of a wellness strategy. So let's work together to try and create simpler messages to enable us as people to be able to do the basic things, to navigate a menu, to walk around the supermarket without thinking, can I eat this? Is that good for me? Is that on this diet? All of this is nonsense. It's created the problem. It's pretty simple. And our mission at Sumo is to make Australia a healthier and happier place. And having worked at Sumo now for 2 years, there are a few brands in Australia who are better positioned to do that, because we can provide the access as well as the education. So this isn't a plea to say, eat loads of salad, but what I can say is there are no ingredients that are healthier than the green leaf. The green leaf is the healthiest ingredient on the planet. And the best thing we can do for ourselves, the best thing you can do for yourself, is champion the green leaf. And we work really hard to make the green leaf taste amazing at Sumo. Thank you for your time.